What if I told you the most dangerous BMW engine ever made wasn't the S58, the S65 V10, or even the legendary S14? What if the real giant killer wore a suit and tie? When people think BMW performance, they think M cars. The S50, the S54, the turbocharged inline-sixes from the modern era. But before all of them, before BMW even understood what they'd created, there was an engine designed for luxury sedans that became a Ferrari-killing legend in the hands of people who actually understood what they had. The M30B35, an engine so overlooked most BMW enthusiasts could not pick it out of a lineup. 3.5 liters, cast iron block, single overhead cam. It came in the 535i, a car driven by middle managers, and the 735i, a limousine for people who thought M5s were too flashy. Zero performance credentials, zero racing pedigree. And yet, it was built like a tank designed to survive the apocalypse, and that made all the difference. Late 1980s, BMW needed a strong, refined engine for their luxury flagships. The M30 family had already been around since 1968, and this was the final evolution. The 3.5-liter swan song of an architecture that defined BMW's Big Six character for 2 decades. But the M30B35 was not designed for performance. It was engineered for autobahn cruising in executive comfort, for pulling away from a stoplight in absolute silence, for delivering effortless torque at 3,000 revolutions per minute while the driver discussed quarterly earnings on a brick-sized car phone. You would find them in E34 535i sedans parked at business parks. In E32 735i, luxury barges dropping executives at airports. These were cars for people in suits, driven by those who valued wood trim and heated seats over horsepower figures. From the factory, the M30B35 made from 208 to 215 horsepower depending on market and year. Unremarkable, even by late 1980s standards. But here is what the engineers at BMW did not realize they were building. What made the M30B35 special wasn't innovation, it was old-school over-engineering, from an era when good enough wasn't in BMW's vocabulary. That cast iron block wasn't a cost-cutting measure. It was a 3,430 cubic centimeters fortress, with cylinder walls thick enough to absorb serious punishment. While competitors chased weight savings with aluminum, BMW built this thing like it needed to survive 500,000 miles of German taxi service. The block featured a 92mm bore and an 86mm stroke, nearly square dimensions that delivered flexible torque across the rev range while maintaining thermal stability that aluminum blocks could only dream about. The bottom end told the real story. Massive main bearings, a forged steel crankshaft that could probably double as a boat anchor, connecting rods sized for an engine making twice the power. These were not economy car internals dressed up for luxury duty. These were components engineered with margin, with headroom, with the kind of safety factors that would make modern cost accountants weep. The single overhead cam head was simple, almost agricultural by modern standards. Just 2 valves per cylinder and a single cam spinning up top. But simplicity meant reliability. It meant fewer failure points. It meant an engine that could tolerate neglect, abuse and modification with the kind of bulletproof tolerance that built BMW's reputation for durability. Here is the kicker. While BMW's competitors were optimizing engines to hit precise power targets and nothing more, the M30B35 had built-in headroom because it was engineered when excellence was the baseline, not the exception. The cooling system was overbuilt. The oiling system was excessive. Every component had margin because that's how BMW engineering worked in the 1980s. And this is where tuners started paying attention. European tuners, especially in Germany and Scandinavia, started asking a simple question. What happens when you bolt a turbo to that overbuilt iron block? The answer was beautiful chaos. The M30B35 could handle boost, not just a little boost, serious, make your eyes water levels of forced induction on stock internals. Those thick cylinder walls did not care about 15 pounds per square inch. Those massive bearings laughed at increased loads. That simple single overhead camshaft head might not have flowed like a modern 4-valve design, but it was robust enough to survive power levels BMW never imagined. Stories started spreading through European tuning circles. One example was a 535i in Sweden, making 450 horsepower as a daily driver. German builds pushed 500, then 600 horsepower on stock bottom ends. The dyno numbers did not lie. This boring luxury engine had the bones of a thoroughbred hiding beneath that cast iron exterior. Now here is the crazy part. With properly built internals, forged pistons, upgraded rods and headwork, the M30B35 could handle 700 plus horsepower. And it would do it reliably day after day, because that foundation was unshakable. The E34 535i became a sleeper legend in certain European circles. 4-door sedan, beige paint, stock wheels. And then it would absolutely embarrass a 911 from a rolling start on the autobahn. The weight distribution was nearly perfect. The chassis could handle the power, and absolutely nobody expected that middle management commuter car to be hiding 500 turbocharged horsepower under the hood. Here is where the story gets wild. Swedish tuners were running high-boost M30B35s that could walk away from Ferraris in highway pulls. Not because they were lighter or more aerodynamic, but because that cast iron anchor of an engine just kept pulling, kept building boost, kept delivering wave after wave of forced induction torque. German drag strip footage started circulating. Beige E32 735i limousines, all 3,800 pounds of executive transport, were running quarter miles in 11 seconds. The Ferrari-Killing reputation was not marketing hype or internet legend. It was real-world humiliation, documented on time slips and autobahn dashcam footage. The turbo M30 community developed its own ecosystem, custom manifolds, big turbos mounted where air conditioning compressors used to live. Megasquirt engine management systems adapted to single overhead cam timing. It became a movement of enthusiasts who understood that the best performance foundation was not the most advanced, it was the most unbreakable. Crazy, right? The engine nobody wanted, the one sitting in cars driven by people who considered spirited driving to be merging at full throttle, became a cult hero among those who looked past the badge and saw the engineering underneath. But wait, if the M30B35 was this good, why is it not mentioned alongside the 2JZ GTE, the RB26 DETT, the legendary forced induction sixes that dominated tuner culture? A perfect storm of obscurity. Timing crushed it. The M30B35's prime years, late 1980s to early 1990s, coincided exactly with the explosion of Japanese tuner culture. The 2JZ GTE became legendary. The RB26 DETT became mythical. American enthusiasts were discovering that Supras and Skylines could make 800 horsepower with bolt-ons. Meanwhile, the M30B35 was stuck in European luxury sedans that never captured American imagination. Geography did not help. The best versions never flooded US markets. American tuners chased Japanese imports, while Europeans quietly built turbocharged M30 monsters that Americans never saw. Here is the kicker. BMW itself overshadowed the M30B35. The M50 and S50 engines arrived in the early 1990s, modern, high-revving, dual-overhead cam designs that represented BMW's future. The M30 became that old engine from Grandpa's 7 Series. By the time people realized what it could do, BMW had moved on, and parts scarcity made it a niche choice for only the most dedicated builders. It suffered from badge prejudice too. It was not an M-division engine. It came in boring sedans. It looked agricultural next to Honda's VTEC wizardry and Toyota's twin-turbo sophistication. Car magazines ignored it. Tuning shops focused on platforms with bigger customer bases. The engine did nothing. The world was not paying attention. But here's the thing about real greatness: it doesn't need mainstream validation. Today, the M30B35 survives in the hands of those who know. European tuning shops still build them, still turbo them, still prove that over-engineering never goes out of style. Online forums dedicated to E34 and E32 chassis cars maintain build threads documenting 600 horsepower daily drivers. Scandinavian enthusiasts still hunt for clean 535i sedans, knowing exactly what potential hides under that hood. Parts are scarce now, and values have risen as people catch on. But the community persists because the M30B35 represents something increasingly rare in automotive history. It was an era when engines were built with margin, when durability was not a liability, when outdated technology meant bulletproof. It's not the fastest, not the most advanced, not the most famous, but it earned its place in the pantheon of engines that could take whatever you threw at them and ask for more. The M30B35 proves that legendary status is not built from marketing departments or racing heritage. It is earned in garages by people who understand that the best foundation is not the most advanced, it is the most unbreakable. Greatness hides in plain sight, and the most dangerous engines are not always the ones wearing M badges. Sometimes they are the ones nobody thought to wake up.